Webby interface. And there's a lot of choices out there today. Go ahead, Roxanne.
Okay, yes. HTML versus Java versus FIORI versus rich client. When I first started out with Infosol and we only had Java and HTML, every new version, they changed what they called Java. I mean, it was Applet or web browser, or every version it was called something different, but it's Java. And for many, many years, the Java version was the most feature-rich of the browser tools. And currently, it actually still is. However, finally, HTML has caught up and it does almost everything that the Java version does. And there's actually a couple things that you can only do in HTML that you can't do in Java. So let's get into that. So what I say, choosing the right one for you is all about knowing the pros and cons that each has to offer. So it's kind of like, depending on what kind of user you are and what your needs are, they each have different benefits that you could use. So we'll start off with the Java Applet. Best for your report designers, your power users who will be creating and editing and doing advanced data analysis. As I mentioned, it is the most feature-rich of the tools, so it has everything available in it. This interface handles larger amounts of data and calculations, as it uses the 64-bit backend servers to do the heavy lifting. So if I've got a very data-heavy report that I'm working with, I would want to be in the Java Applet version. As it's a browser-based web application, session timeouts can be annoying. I'm sure you've all hit that. That can be changed, that timeout, but of course it is user-wide. You can't limit. I really wish that you could specify the users who get the long timeouts, but you can't. Of the browser-based interface, this one has the most functionality. So they made a commitment, starting with 4.2, I believe it was SP3, maybe slightly earlier, but with SP3 they said, they kind of drew a line in the sand and they said any new development is going to be in all three, Java, HTML, and rich client. So any new functionality added, they are going to make sure all of them have it. Okay, so that was really cool. That I was glad that they finally made that commitment, because as a consultant, it got confusing to remember which mode had that functionality. But now be aware that the Java plugin is gradually being phased out by the browser vendors. Therefore, the Webby Applet interface might soon become obsolete. So definitely something to be aware of. And now that HTML has so much more options, it is becoming my browser of choice. So they say this one is the best one for report consumers as opposed to developers, as it generally has a little bit simpler layout. But there's a lot of advantages for the power user as well. HTML is more nimble application than Java, and therefore certain functions are faster in HTML. For example, formatting. If I'm going to be doing formatting, I definitely want to be in HTML. It's just so much faster than Java. And then, as I mentioned, functionality is almost the same as Java and becoming more so with every release. And I have some slides in a little bit that will show the comparison, okay, for some major things that are available in the different ones. The HTML version has this document linking wizard for creating the open doc links to other reports. If you've ever created those in the past. They used to be a real pain. They're cool, but they used to be a real pain to try and create. But now the HTML version has this little wizard that takes you right through it, and all you have to do is say, I want this report, and I want it to say refresh on open. I want it to choose this as the default prompt, and it gives you your link, and it's wonderful. That link, so for example, I create a Webby report that has summarized information, and as one of the rows on there, I want them to be able to click like on a hyperlink that takes them to the detail of that particular row. We can use this OpenDoc link to accomplish that, and that link will work in Java. It's just that you can't set up the link with a wizard as you can in the HTML version. So the actual link works in both. It's just the wizard is only available in HTML. Ordering nested query filters is way easier in HTML. Let me pause here, and I kept a print screen if I can remember. It's here. I kept it because it was such a, there we go. So this was from an actual report that had this many nested filters. And it was a pain to set up in Java, a real pain, because you have to drag, to nest them, you had to drag one on top of the other, and then it wouldn't be in the right order that the customer wanted it in, and so to reorder them was a real pain. But in the HTML version, it actually has the arrows where you can point. I want it to go here, I want it to go up, I want it to go down. It's way easier in HTML. So if you have to do any kind of nesting, definitely recommend using the HTML. All right. From this point, all right. The copy and paste. I don't know. Are you aware how you can copy a block from one report and paste it into a whole new report, and it brings the entire query with it? You can do that in Java mode, but you cannot do it in HTML. It's kind of cool. Where you have a pretty complex query that's already set up, you can just copy the block and paste it in a new report, and it takes some time, so be patient with it, because it's doing it in the background, so it kind of initially seems like nothing's happening, but it's bringing that entire query, and it's already set up for you so that you can use it in that new one. So it's...
What would be the difference between that and shared elements, for example,
Shared elements, it is handled a little bit differently because the original is kept you can make any changes to the original.
Right.
Whereas this is...
just a straight cut and paste.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, you could always just save the report itself. The times that I've used it is when I needed, one complex query that I already set up, and then another complex query that I already had in another report. I would copy that and paste it into this one. So that was helpful. And that can only be done in Java. All right, then there's FIORI, the new kid on the block. I don't know if you've had a chance, I'll bring it up so that you can see it. It's slick, it's done in HTML5, so it's very nice user experience. It's more colorful, it's cool looking, and it works really nice. It's touch enabled, so it works on the desktop as well as the iPad. So you can show it on an iPad and bring up a report and interact with it, the report in on your iPad as well. And it doesn't have the editing mode, so if you want to edit the report, it takes you into the regular HTML version. But it does offer a lot more of the interactive functionality that's not available in the other interfaces in reading mode. I don't know if you remember that, like, I think the 3.1 version, in reading mode, you could right-click and filter and add calculations, or was that just XI or 2? Anyway.
3.1 web, you could right mouse click and do the analytics and
Yeah.
filtering and things like that.
And in 4.1 and 4.2, you can't. You have to be in design mode to be able to do that. Well, in the FIORI version, in reading mode, it still has tons of functionality like that you can do. So that makes it really nice. All right. And then there's Webby Rich Client. So the desktop tool, it's great for intensive report development as there's no session timeout. So if I've got a big complex report that I want to work on, heads down and not be distracted by those timeouts, or if I am distracted, my session's not going to time out. I want to be in Rich Client. It's very nice. Has almost all the features and functionality as the Java mode, plus some additional features, all its own, which I'll show you in a little bit. And it can be used with local data sources and some desktop type data sources such as Excel and Access. And then it can also be used in 3-tier mode, which takes advantage of the backend servers for data retrieval. However, I think there is a licensing consideration, right, for most. Yeah, so.
Be interesting to know how many people in the room here are using Java, the Java version? How many are using HTML?
I mean, don't know what the.
How many are using Rich Client?
Yeah.
Anybody using FIORI? Only became available with SPO4. Yeah, 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's pretty limited.
It is. But it's getting better. With
It's getting better,
SPO5
yeah.
and SPO6, right? There's a lot more in it now.
I think the big thing for us is CMES, so it's going to be a problem.
So that's interesting. You've got a lot of Rich Client people here.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a question on that. It's like, you mentioned Rich Client to Access. Does that really work?
I haven't tried it. I was surprised when I did some research and found that out. I haven't done it.
I think you have to have a university in there. Because it's got a dream, it's got a. I'll take a look. I didn't think that worked.
You can use tier 3 mode in Rich Client. The problem is once you switch to the backend servers, your report performance on the data retrieval, it's slow as a dog. I'm sorry?
Very slow.
Yes, it is. No.
More like the sleepy basset.
Okay, so this is doing some comparison for report functionality. You can see there's a lot of yeses across the board, but some of them, like editing a document using a text source. Surprised that you can't do that in Java. The data web service, that is only available in Java and Rich Client. So you will notice, I'll point it out when I bring up the interfaces. The web service symbol is like a little globe on the side, and the HTML version doesn't have that. The printing with HTML, you have to export it to PDF and then print it from there, whereas you can straight from the Java and Rich Client. Save the repository, auto-save documents to my favorites. Yeah, when you save in Rich Client, it goes to your desktop rather than to your favorites. And then access highlight all button in the find box to highlight all the currents for the string text. That is only available in Java Rich Client. but the others apply custom formats to numbers and create and edit conditional formatting. The reason why I pointed those out is because in earlier versions, I think 4.1 even, you couldn't format numbers in HTML, and you couldn't do conditional formatting in HTML, which was annoying. So you're doing all your other formatting, but then you have to switch to Java in order to format the number to have the decimal where you want it to. So it's nice that they have caught up with those two features for HTML. All right, so this is looking at query features, working with hierarchies. You see almost all of them are the same across the board. Building queries on text files again, can't do with Java. Access data mode. Oh, that's the little being able to see your raw data. So I'll show that. That's helpful to me to know when I'm comparing reports, is the same row count for both the same? So I find that helpful to be able to check that once in a while. Access the change source options, middle of those, change the data source queries based on Excel or text, and for OLAP universes, when filtering on measures, you can only type a constant. And then the hyperlink to another document in the CMS, that wizard, is only available in HTML. You can have the link. They work in Java and HTML, but there's no wizard. And then the web service, again, is only available in Java and HTML. All right, so open up and show a comparison. So this is the Java version. Okay, some differences. Let me open up a report. Just grab one of these. All right, so again, we don't have the right-click design options for filtering or adding calculations. In design